Good to see you back for the second part of my conversation with Catalina Koch, co-founder of the foundation Mi Sangre in Colombia, in order to really generate long-lasting peace in that country. So I hope you're going to enjoy this part as well.
We also realized that young people were so isolated. It's hard to believe, but many times they hadn't even moved away from their own neighborhood within the city. They didn't know the other side of the city. They didn't know kids from other neighborhoods. So when you're so attached to a small piece of land, well, your mind and you're willing to kill to defend your territory. But once you start sharing with others, dreaming with others, co-creating with others, your world totally transformed and you discover your power within.
There, I would like to share a screen with one of the projects, a methodology that Mi Sangre uses. It's been developed by Otto Scharmer, MIT professor, and it's called the U methodology that you started using at Mi Sangre. And I really would like to share it in order to make it a little bit more specific for our viewers as well, Catalina, if I may, to really explain what it's all about. And here it is, because it really starts with kind of downloading what is actually there in your reality, and be open-minded. You see it here in the middle, open mind. Can you take us a little bit through this transformational process that really makes from somebody who's totally secluded as somebody that is empowered, can tell you about a bigger world and be a change maker?
Well, this initiative arose about 3 years ago. After replicating our projects and scaling our initiatives to reach around 1.5 million participants in more than 150 municipalities, we felt really proud and exciting of those achievements. But compared to the needs and the challenges that Colombia faces and also other Latin American countries, we decided to go a step further and start exploring the idea of building ecosystems with very diverse actors to involve them in the fight against youth violence. So we invited a very diverse group of actors from the private sector, CEOs, academics, NGO leaders, from the public sector as well, but also young people, both those who had been in our programs, but also kids who were still involved in armed groups or fighting with it. And we developed a social lab which uses this methodology. The social lab wanted to explore systemic solutions to youth violence involving all these actors in society. And what this methodology proposes is to go in a journey with the form of a U, where at the beginning you start seeing with fresh eyes, observing the system to try to understand what's happening out there. And to be able to do so, you have to go away from your own margins, from your own comfort zone. So what we did was actually travel in a bus, all these 50 people together, very diverse, with very different experiences. It was fascinating to see how each person started transforming and open their mind and their heart to start sensing the field and understanding what was going on. We went to a jail of, I don't know how to call it technically in English, but it's a jail where young people go, but also cultural initiatives in the shanty towns to resist to violence, also to the Secretary of Security to understand what was being done from the public sector. We visited the media, looking at the city through each other's eyes and understanding the system through observing with an open heart and open mind. Then we got together in a process of co-creating, doing intense workshops where we started downloading all this information. Of course, we did a lot of research as well, understanding the different causes of violence. And there's a moment at the bottom of the U, which is very, very important. Otto Scharmer quotes O'Brien when he says, the success of any intervention depends on the inner condition of the intervener. This was a beautiful moment where we all started to let go our paradigms, our the way we used to see the world and understand what was going on. So this can be done through different techniques like connecting to nature or meditating, like different ways to connect to your inner knowledge and also to the future that wants to emerge. Because the solutions are many times there, but the biggest blockage are our own paradigms. Like Einstein said, I can't quote him directly, I don't remember, but you can't solve the problems you're trying to solve from the same level of consciousness that these were created. This is an invitation to broaden your consciousness and to access and to crystallize a new vision of the future. And it was fascinating to see, for instance, a top CEO from a health company saying, I never saw how my company was related to this issue, and perhaps there is a strong connection. What if the primary attention that we provide, we involve, for instance, psychological evaluation to see if there's risk associated to substance abuse or to violent behaviors, etc. And that's just an example of many, many shifts in our own vision of the city. And today, that's a living ecosystem of very diverse groups who are all collaborating to solve this complex issue in Medellin specifically. And it was very transformative also because it was like a fractal of society. Members from all the points across the city managed to experience the city and the society we can become. And now that's broadening and we're trying to replicating it. And I think it's very important to create these learning ecosystems where, again, going to the beginning of our talk, we're connecting apparently disconnecting world and finding collective solutions.
Let me quickly interrupt the conversation to say thank you that you're here with me on the channel. If you do enjoy what I'm putting out, the in-depth kind of conversations, then why don't you subscribe and also hit the bell button so I can keep you informed with our newest releases. Thanks for that in advance, and let's get back to the conversation. And I think it is so powerful on having this kind of methodology where you really go step by step in a process. You can really not only follow that process, but see the change within the individual. And you were pointing out the bottom of the U, where the fundamental question is, who is the self? Who am I? And with that consciousness, you become more proactive and can actually feel that power that with your own actions, decisions, you can create a change. And one thing you mentioned now is there's a multi-stakeholder approach, and that is really a chapter I would dig into a little bit more as well, because I've seen in the history of Colombia, there were initiatives, of course, to reform the economy, to get rid of the inequality and poverty. However, obviously not at such a success. So you're involving the government, the leaders, the corporate leaders, of course, the community leaders, other NGOs, the schools, even perhaps parent communities coming together. Now, what drives these people to come together and really believe that there will be finally a change, as opposed to all these years, if not decades, of where perhaps initiatives happened in Colombia, but just didn't get anywhere?
Well, I guess there's a deep desire within all Colombians to transform our reality, our pain. I think sometimes when we talk about the almost 7 million people who were direct victims of violence, I question that number. I think we have all been victims because we grew up with bombs and violence. And so I think there's a genuine desire to contribute. So I guess the invitation to do so it's also inspiring because we've tried to do a process that is uncommon, that is rare, in the sense that the first invitation was actually to cook. We invited and we said, the table is not served, said the invitation. And each person brought an ingredient, and it was like an informal get together. And it was fascinating what started to happen. Like, how did I end with this person in the table? And the conversations were so powerful, and the invitation was there. Like it was a surprise, but we said, here we are. Each one of us has a different ingredient, a different story, and what if we try to explore this together? And as I said, we literally got I think it was every 3 weeks or whatever, in a bus that was also very different, like to get in a bus with such a diverse group, etc. And I guess as the journey evolved, we all started seeing an inner transformation that was worth it as well. And I think that makes a huge difference. When many people tell me sometimes, oh, you're so generous that you dedicate your life to serve, I said, no, it's really a selfish decision. It just makes me so happy because I feel connected to something bigger. I think it's the biggest source of happiness, to be in service of humanity. And when all these people started to explore that and to feel connected with that original desire, I think it makes sense. And also, I think it's been helpful. I'm thinking it right now. I hadn't realized, but we didn't create it as an initiative of Mi Sangre, but it was a collective initiative. And I think it's really important as well. People want to co-create. They want to be part of something big that transformed, and it's a cause, a deeper purpose that joined us together in this journey.
And the endorsement by Juanes, who obviously is a Latin Emmy award-winning artist, is at the forefront. I think back in 2015, he even played in front of the European Commission. A lot of money was donated to his foundation as well. And if somebody doesn't know who Juanes is, maybe you remember that song, Camisa Negra. My Spanish is like non-existent, so please excuse me. I love that song. I didn't know it was by him, and then I stumbled over Mi Sangre, and his endorsement and his fame globally must be a huge enabler, especially if you look at the bottom-up approach to solve this problem in Colombia, not only from the grassroots up, as you were saying, trying to get the kids involved and then have them develop, but really to get all the change makers, the powerful ones, the ones that have money as well involved.
Absolutely. His role is fundamental from the beginning, and in every sense, I would say, like getting to new communities by simply mentioning his name, like it immediately inspires trust and authenticity. So it's a big plus. And also with regards to corporate people and other NGOs, etc., that's what he transmits. And I think we're in desperate need of rebuilding trust in our society, and I would say around the world. And that trust is only built through human connections. And I think we've been doing that for the past years, and I guess a bigger movement is growing around this shared dream. Of course, there's many obstacles, and far from saying that the problems are solved in our society, many challenges still ahead, but we feel that we're building an army of peace builders.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have been touching already millions of people. Now, in order to wrap up our conversation, Catalina, what are the key elements to become this kind of change maker, if you had to put it? And what are the key learnings that you've had in your own journey with Mi Sangre since 2006?
Several, I would say. I think empathy is the point of departure, and I guess the most important skill that we should all learn. I think as long as we are empathetic and we understand where the other person is coming from, their feelings, their suffering, their excitements, there's a big chance to start transforming society. I would say also understanding that old African proverb that if you want to go fast, you can go alone, but if you want to go far, walk with others. And that's part of our DNA. And we have been seeing, we're constantly building communities, building ecosystems, weaving. I think that's a key issue as well, which is a new type of leadership that I think we should incentivize more. And it's not the traditional leader that it's top down and maybe a superhero wanting to solve all, but it's more a person who has a systemic view, a capacity to link different worlds, to connect different ideas, different actors, and to create collective initiatives like we're doing. Also, what I mentioned about theory use idea of working on the inside, or ensuring that you are operating from a inner condition that is connected, calm, creative, to be able to create that reality outside. If you're operating from suffering, from fear, from anger, well, that's the reality you're going to create. It's impossible to do so if you don't work inside and transform inside as well. I think it's really important as well. Working from the bottom up, but also from the top to down. So it's, again, connecting two different approaches. And I guess that's very, very powerful, because you build a solid basis, basis, but you also need to connect that to decision makers and to ensure that they are supported by a bigger ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think putting it on the spot totally, the co-creation, being open-minded. If you want change, it happens if you're part of change, and I think, us talking about the situation of Colombia, what are the reasons for all these violence, and how you can really proactively and systematically be part of change and really create systematically peace long term is absolutely amazing, Catalina. Last question, how can one support Mi Sangre? What are the ways that people can connect with you, with your NGO, to really perhaps even roll out your model in different countries?
Thank you for mentioning that. We've been able to systematize, measure, like we're so ready to share our knowledge. So if everyone's interested, well, they can contact us through the webpage, www.fundacionmisangre.org. And also we just launched a program for individual donors, which I think can make a huge difference. Even with a €5 donation a month, we recently created, and you can access it through our webpage as well. It makes a huge difference to be able to grow our programs. And of course, talent and knowledge is always welcome. So we also receive volunteers and support from different professionals that allows us to grow our organization, our programs, and our messaging as well. For instance, you, Patricia, by sharing our story, you're making a huge contribution, and I'm thankful for that.
No, thank you. No, thank you for the opportunity to be part of it in that sense, and for really opening the story and what you are proactively doing. So it's not only money, but it's also the smartness, and best of all is smart money to support Mi Sangre. And anybody that's been watching, I always, under the videos, I have a description of our conversation anyway, and all the links are always there, how you can get in touch with the people that I feature in my conversations, and of course, also with Catalina and Mi Sangre as well. So you find it also on my webpage. And with that, Catalina, thank you so much for having joined us, for really talking deeply about the situation in Colombia and what you are proactively doing with it, and having shared your hour with me.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
And thank you, my dear Mentory TV community, for having joined me yet again with a fantastic guest, this time with Catalina Koch. She's a co-founder of the Fundación Mi Sangre. And I hope to see you next time again. Bye.